Today I'm sitting down with a national champion, Olympic weightlifter, and the lead coach with Power Monkey Fitness. He's a man who has dedicated his life to mastering the craft of movement, but more importantly, helping others also do the same. From competing on the national stage and representing Team USA to stepping into a role of teaching, coaching, and refining athletes across the world, he's lived every layer of this very special journey that we're excited to unpack. This conversation is about what it really takes to build strength that lasts. The patience, the precision, and the willingness to stay in the work long after the excitement fades. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Cerbus. Welcome to the show, man.
Wow, I feel like dramatic music has to play now and the stage is set. Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful intro. One thing I have to say, I never was a national champion. So I was American Open champion, and I was multi-time second place at nationals, but never actually won a national championship. It was one of my great tragedies of my weightlifting career, but I was very close, and it was a fun time trying.
When you mention that, right? Like, to me, there's a humility there, right? Like, there's an honesty and there's a humility of like, I was almost there. What do you feel as you describe the specificity of just getting second place, being so close, but then also, like, had you not done that or had that experience, would you have been in the weeds to really refine every skill and know the coaching cues and care so much for people along the way? It's almost like it had to happen that way for you to get to the now.
I mean, yeah, I can only speak of where we are in the now, and the now is happening, so it must be a result of then. And yeah, I mean, thank you for the humility shout out. I think it's become very common for Dave and myself at Power Monkey. Like, oftentimes we get invited places because of what our athletic accolades were and the trust and the respect that people have for Power Monkey. But with that, sometimes we get inflated. So we oftentimes are very, very quick to remind people of those that achieved more than we did, and we want to offer them the respect that they had. So, like, I've been places where somebody will say, like, "Oh, U.S. Olympian Mike Cerbus," and I go, No. I was on a qualification team for the Olympics, and if 5 other guys would have got injured, maybe I would have gotten to go to the Olympics. So it's in those cases, it's wanting to honor the era of the sport that I was in and those who were, above me, next to me, and right below me.
It's very cool, man. What was your childhood like? Obviously, like, there's a little twang in your voice there. What was your upbringing like, and where did you grow up for people that are listening?
Oh, now I'm embarrassed. I mean, I've heard that my current way of speaking is slightly corrected from maybe my most natural, because let's say for the better part of the last 9 years, I'm usually talking to people where English is not their mother language. So I'm generally the foreign one and the outsider, and everybody talk about humble pie. Everybody is changing their comfort language so that I'm able to tell my story to them, and then telling me their story in sometimes a second or third language. And you want to talk about humbling experiences is being in those circumstances. So the twang, I guess I probably slow my speech down a little bit. I grew up in Ohio in the Midwest, so I would like to think that I have a pretty neutral Midwestern accent, and probably pick up some things. I mean, my family, I think I guess maybe there's a little twang there. My non-ethnic grandparents. So my grandparents were parents were all from Romania, but my grandmother, she grew up in West Virginia. So maybe we all inherited a little bit of West Virginia twang from her.
I hear it specifically because as a child, I learned Spanish before English. Later, really developed my English. Then I lived in Sweden for a little while where Swedish was very difficult to speak, but I kind of started to pick that up a little bit. And then when I came back to America and when I first started coaching at Invictus, the facility was right next to a language school where there would be a lot of Brazilians that came and spoke Portuguese. And I taught the fundamentals course. And so I tried to use like broken Spanish that sort of passed close to Portuguese. And we were able to teach the fundamentals like pretty well. And I don't know, it just kind of sharpened that tool, sharpened that sword. But very similar to you, you learn unique ways to communicate. And then also in college, one of my teammates was the only deaf Division I basketball player. And I didn't know actual sign language, so I would spell out words like with my fingers. And then I really practiced reading his lips and watching body language. And I feel like that almost sharpens the tool of the energy that you're communicating with somebody. You realize how much of it is nonverbal. And I think as a byproduct, you learn a ton about communication that it's, in some ways, it's like hieroglyphics, and it's an approximation of what you're trying to convey, but you start to like really be an observer to the totality of communication rather than just the specificity of words, which is just like a sound coming from an animal's mouth, if that makes sense.
Words are just words. We make all of them up and we've learned how to communicate with them, but nothing replaces nonverbals, body language, energy. Just when you're saying that, I mean, two men that I would consider great friends. One is Armando from Madrid. He speaks zero English and my Spanish is really bad. I would hang out with him for hours and we would laugh and not say one thing. And then another was one of my neighbors while I was living in Greece, in Crete, Yorgos. His wife and his kids spoke really good English, so I had great relationships with them. Him, no English. And I probably the best hugs and the best person to sit on a porch and drink a glass of wine with in the whole world. Just to what you're saying, like there's a lot of things that transcend language. Yet I think learning that your words also have a lot of power is important.
And that's the thought, right? Which is it doesn't have to be an all or nothing or zero sum where everything's about words or everything's not about words. It's like, it's case dependent. The answer to most questions is it depends. And when you really study humans, which you do, and movement, and like you said, having a glass of wine with somebody on a porch and being able to take all of that in. We, for whatever reason, Mike, as humans, we think about Wi-Fi and we trust it and we use our phones on it. We connect to it with our computers. But as humans, like there is a Wi-Fi. There's an energy exchange that's not seen, but it's felt. And sometimes it's actually felt in the form of a hug. Sometimes it's felt in a high five or a dab. But it's like there's certain people you'll work out next to them or you'll have a meal with them or a glass of wine like you described. You're like, whoa, this is different. This Wi-Fi is powerful. What comes to mind when we describe energy and relationships in that way?
Oh, I mean, there's so many things right now that I love that you're saying. So first, and I think you probably got this with Dave or gathered this, he and I are very much, when somebody asks a question, the answer is always, it depends. Because especially as coaches and let's say specialty coaches, other coaches always want to know, how would you teach so-and-so how to do this? Or I have a person that doesn't know how to do X, Y, Z. And our answer is always, it depends because, you just don't know. So there's always a lot of gray area and a lot of middle. But when you talk about the energy and the Wi-Fi and things like this, I think we all give off a very, very strong energy, and you don't always know how you're going to receive it from others, but a good example is, just when you hug somebody and when somebody hugs you, like there's a strong feeling, and you can oftentimes tell a lot from that person, and that can change over time too. Like sometimes familiarity and trust will then allow for a stronger embrace at a certain point. And that can be as much physical as it can be emotional, which is really, really cool to see, especially let's say in a coaching setting, as people start to learn who you are as a teacher and as an educator. And then they start to develop trust of your delivery, of your bedside manner. In counseling, you call it like empathic regard. So just it's a really, it's a term that I loved, that when I learned that. So empathic regard, and it's something that I try to keep to the forefront, of myself, to offer it to myself sometimes, to be aware of what I'm feeling, wanting, needing. But then when you're thinking of you're the one teaching, leading, instructing, or you're in a position of, let's say, perceived power or influence, that regard to others in a way that they will best respond is powerful and intriguing and a paradox and all these words that you can only really see when they're happening.
I love the way you describe that, man. Just the way because it would be easy to hop on a podcast and play with clickbait verbiage, right? Like, and say things that are kind of cliche, but the fact that you guys with Power Monkey are honest enough to say, hey, it depends, right? And like something that I think is noteworthy here is that a real story isn't really rehearsed. It's kind of messy. It's like sometimes the time frame is a little bit off. You're trying to describe certain things. You're like, oh, I actually forgot to mention this. Yeah. And that to me is kind of indicative of the Japanese ceramic making called Wabi-Sabi. Have you seen that before?
I just talked about that. Yes, I have such a great thing for this. Thank you.
Oh, I'm excited to chat about it with you because it's something that I've thought about a lot. Especially in brand development, because it's like you're always trying to like trim the fat and curate the edges and make this smooth, beautiful product. But I also really love the messiness. I love the ums and the ands. And, obviously you're in pursuit of refining, but it does relate to Olympic weightlifting, man. The iron doesn't lie. And the early arm pull is sometimes beautiful. I mean, Rich Froning got away with it for years. But I think what's like really funny, just to give people context, do you want to describe Wabi-Sabi or you want me to?
Yeah, I mean, well, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So I always start everything with, when I tell people stories, it's my perspective, my perception, and it can be sometimes full of crap. So if somebody knows better, they should always stop me. But I'll always give my best effort. So Wabi-Sabi, as I understand it, is when something is like broken and you repair it and fit it back together, and then it has like the gold pieces through it, like to bring it back together and make it look quite beautiful. So in the, like, let's say in the calamity and the break and the whatever, like everything can be put together and sometimes become more beautiful. So that's how I understand it. If I'm on.
No, I think that's spot on. And if I were just to layer on top of that, it would be, if you and I are making ceramics, I might have my flavor to it. That might be a little messed up, or have things that aren't totally glossed, or color schemes that are a little off, and you're going to have your vibe and your version of it. But they're both unique in their own way. They both come with their own energy. They might have a different use. They might have a liking to some eyes and to some hands, and a liking to others, and a dislike from some, which is totally okay. But with that comes a uniqueness. And I think the point that I'm making here is like, to relate it back to coaching, if coaching felt like the Industrial Revolution, where like everything was made in machinery and like everybody used the same cue, and it was just mundane, the same tone, it's like, it's not really fun anymore. It's just like, ugh. But when you start using different energies, different tones, and maybe you just say like a random cue or a random word that lands with that one person at that one time at that one place, and all of a sudden they PR their clean and jerk or their snatch. It's like, whoa, that had no idea that was going to come out of my mouth, and it did, and it worked. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's their word for today.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, that's a great way to say it, because what I generally will say is every cue is a great cue if the reaction is what you were looking for. And then when it stops working, you have to search for another one. So that's, again, on the coaching side, that's why you want to be able to use these cues in different things, but then hopefully also understand a lot of, foundational layers of movement and comprehension and things from athletes too, so that you're not overly reliant. It's going to such a more practical role, but like not being overly reliant on cues, but understanding what you're trying to get the person to do and what they were doing. So that's, I don't know, a fun experiment when you're coaching, and especially when you're coaching coaches, because you have to be willing to try sometimes a lot of weird stuff. But as long as you have the right intention for what you want somebody to do, then I'm always game for it.
It's beautiful, man. Where was your first spark? I feel like every path kind of has a moment or, a spot in your trajectory. What really lit your spark to pursue weightlifting?
Oh, weightlifting. Okay. I wanted to be faster and stronger than everybody else that was playing football, knowing that I was probably going to be smaller than most. So I was, from early on, just I think when you grow up, especially in the US, and when you grow up in the Midwest, if you can move, then you're addicted to sport. So like I had an uncle that I looked up to that was a really good high school baseball, football, basketball player that went to college and played baseball and football. So I wanted to be like him. Then I had a cousin who didn't really, he was crazy athletic, but didn't really like sports, but he was really good at weightlifting, and then became a national medalist in weightlifting. So then I saw him, and he could jump higher than everybody and run faster than everybody. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. So I think the spark was probably a lot in mimicking people that I looked up to. And then I would say the spark for weightlifting then even turned into a little bit of a, kind of like I'll show you. So, like you asked a little bit of like my growing up. So when I grew up, I just have an older sister by 8 years. And then, growing up, I had a father who, was very, very involved when I was young and obsessed with sport and me being the best at sport. And then a lot of family dynamics and dramas. And then he was away by the time I was 13, 14. Football was very, very much connected with like him. So as like each year of getting older and kind of wanting my own identity, I was also improving with weightlifting, and my coach, Lou DeMarco, was like an icon of the sport. And, I was, more connected to him, and, kind of wanted to make him proud as well. But by the time I was finishing high school, I almost didn't play football my senior year because I was like, I like weightlifting. Like, I don't want to go to college and play football. It's not something that I have a strong passion for anymore. So I really, the spark was kind of finding my own identity, and I just really liked the individual accountability that weightlifting offered. Thankfully, I did play my senior year, and it was my best year of football, and had a lot of positives that happened that year, which when I reflect back, I'm very, very thankful. Like basically, my mom and my uncle kind of made me play. And I'm glad they did. And I had a very strong personality, but I was also very respectful, so I didn't want to let them down. But yeah,
what was that conversation like? What was that conversation like with your mom and your uncle around, was it like, hey, if you start something, you're going to finish it? Or what was that in-depth moment like for you at such a pivotal time where you kind of had this resentment a little bit towards your father, but at the same time appreciated his attempt to be in your life when you were young? What was that dynamic like for you in ultimately making that decision? Because I always say it's a mystery looking forward, but it's science looking back. I feel like that was like something really important for the man that you became.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I was aware of that. I would say that's one thing I'm thankful for. Like I talked about, before the call with my great aunt, being very instrumental in my life. Like I spent most of my childhood with like the generation that were my grandparents and great aunts and great uncles. So I had a lot of like learned intrinsic validation through just how they interacted. And I'm like, all right, they got where they are and they're all pretty positive and healthy and happy. So I think in general, I will too, no matter what. So I think that was a helpful perspective to gain. So like when my father did leave, my first reaction was like, continue doing what I'm doing, which is get good grades, work so that my mom doesn't have to give me money, and be successful, like quotes, like meaning, put what I'm going to put into, which is all my effort and energy, into what I will do. So like, I think the spark was kind of always to, essentially be proud of myself for the effort and energy that I put into. And then weightlifting just happened to be, something that I could always see something. Like I tried really hard today. Maybe I didn't hit the numbers that I liked, but I was in the gym. I did all the work, and somewhere the progress will come. And I am quite patient. So I also like that about weightlifting, like just seeing how long it can take people to get to where they get. And with other sports, sometimes it was more immediate for me. So I think I was quite good in youth sports, and most sports that I played, I was generally one of the better ones on the team, and had good eye-hand coordination and things like this. But weightlifting was just a whole other challenge, and I think I liked that it was, probably forcing me even out of a comfort zone.
What allowed you to develop that level of patience? Because, I mean, we see it all the time in fitness modern day where people are in pursuit of the outcome. They want the weight loss. They want the numbers. They want the time on the workout. They want the faster high rocks time. They want a PR. They want the measurable validation. But you and I both know that everything that's measured doesn't always count, and everything that counts isn't always measured.
Yeah.
And patience is a tough one to measure, right? Like, how long is it going to take for me to feel improvement, Coach Mike? And that's a tough sell sometimes. But, and I'll end with this, I can't guarantee that consistency will get you to the goal, but I can guarantee that lack of consistency will ensure that you'll never make the goal.
Yeah, that sometimes that's a nice, I think that's probably the best way to be very honest with people, is being impatient and being erratic and inconsistent will definitely not get you where you want to go. I can't tell you if you will get where you want to go, but I'm personally patient enough to be on the journey with you. And I'm quite confident that we'll get closer to it, if not getting to it, when the time comes. And I think for me that perspective was a mixture of modeled behavior, learned behavior, and I always gravitated towards patient people. And again, you're always very influenced by the people that you're growing up with, especially when you go through puberty and you're developing emotionally. And as men, we're developing emotionally always, but even later, into our 20s and things with the brain. And my father was incredibly impatient and erratic, and I didn't like those traits from him. So even early on, as a child, I was quite aware of when I would present certain traits that he did that I didn't like, and I would try to unlearn them. So interesting, an easy anecdote, which I still struggle with, is he hated when people would chew loudly. And that's a normal thing. A lot of people don't like loud chewing. It's I think it's actually a diagnosed disorder in the DSM-R. But I mean, to the point where if my mom was eating cereal and it was too loud, he would take his cereal and start banging the dish, to mimic her, which is not borderline, it's emotionally abusive. It's really, really, really crappy. And I would notice though, there were times, whether it would be with my mom or friends or anything, when they would eat, inside, I would want to do the same thing. And I thought, oh, that is such an ugly feeling. One reason being, like, that person is enjoying what they're doing. And why am I so upset that they're enjoying, even if I don't like the sound? Like, it's not hurting me. So I still try to acknowledge those things. Into that, it's a layer of patience. Like, even any dripping water, eventually the sound will go away, and you won't even pay attention to it anymore. Like, if you wait long enough. So I think all of those things kind of tie together.
This little thing right here, it's pretty cool. One of our missions with ALLSMITH was to find affordable brands that we can partner with that seamlessly fit into people's day-to-day lifestyles. And the Kalo current ring absolutely does that. It's non-invasive. You can use it when you're doing any activity in life, and it keeps track of your data and helps with your steps, with enhancing your habits, with understanding your HRV, and most importantly for me and so many people in the world, keeping accountable with sleep. So check out the Current. That's pronounced Current, but spelled QRNT. And it's from our good friends and our new partner, Kalo. Like, a little needle that I want to pull out of this haystack right here that's really cool about what you're describing is, first of all, the ability to notice. It sounds like you're blessed with a keen ear, which means like music probably hits a little different. You can hear the catch of a clean or a snatch, or when the tension's taken out of a barbell. You understand the movement of the feet. You understand the movement of the feet in the split jerk, for example, and the famous Bergner split jerk, and you hear that front foot just smash, and then the punch of the barbell landing right over the scaps. But also the awareness factor, just to take this a layer deeper. Okay, if that particular sound is bothering me, I need to take a look at me. I need to understand why that's disruptive to my inner state. Is it my breath? Is it my lack of sleep? Is it my impatience with others, as you kind of alluded to? What is it about me that needs to be worked on and refined, so that way I'm unbothered by things that are really outside of my control? Where did you start to take ownership and responsibility and kind of put the mirror up to better be like, okay, how do I navigate my internal state so those things are not a pebble in my shoe?
I mean, I'm still doing that, so it's a constant practice, I guess. But I think thankfully, again, I have an incredibly compassionate, caring, like, heartfelt mother. My great aunt that was just remembered and listened to everything from everybody. Like, we talked a little bit before recording. She was definitely a story recorder and a storyteller. So, you could ask her a question about any person in the family. She could tell you every layer of everything that had happened, good and bad, which was phenomenal. So I think, for me, all of that ties into good and bad. You don't want to hurt somebody, you don't want to disappoint somebody, and that can be a micro and a macro level. So something as little, again, like, it's a silly anecdote sometimes to think about, but if my mom is eating cereal and she's banging the dish and she's chomping her lips, but she's so happy because that cereal tastes good, like, who am I to get angry about the sound? Even if it's a neurological disorder that I have, if I'm aware enough to understand that, then I can work on it. And easier for me to work on it and maybe grow than yell at her or be frustrated, like, at her, to force a change that doesn't need to happen. So I think, like, and if it's so bad, I just can leave the room. Like, nobody's tying me down to the chair to listen to them chew. But in some senses, that is oftentimes how I coach, in the sense of, I really, really try to not offer negative feedback. So don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, because then you're hyperfixated on don't do this, and then you'll do it. You don't bend your arms. Great. Now the only thing my brain is thinking about is bend my arms. Don't think about the white elephant. There's a white elephant now in my head. Great, thanks. Mm-hmm. So like, what reaction are you looking for from yourself and from the person or people or group that you're interacting with? And I would say sometimes it's positive, empathic, self and others manipulation. Like it is manipulative, but in a positive way. And I think that that's something I like to try to kind of think about is all of us are on the spectrum of all the emotions and all the disorders and everything, and it can shift and sway. So all of us also have a little bit of narcissism, which wants control and wants perfection and all these things. So you just have to learn how to address that and bring it back down into the almost neutral state. And that's how it's maybe getting abstract, but that's how I try to think about coaching and working with people is be aware of all the extremes, try to bring stuff back into the middle and then reset and work from there.
Wow, Mike, that abstract description I thought was super rad, because I think what that does is it allows for a malleable coaching experience and life experience, really, in the sense of hey, I'm feeling this way or I'm doing this behavior. Once you create a level of acceptance that, hey, that's temporary, but it can be shifted in a positive or a negative direction. Negative feedback might move it in the wrong direction because you're hyper fixated. You're programming the neuroplasticity in the wrong direction. But instead of, hey, don't bend your arm, maybe it's flex your triceps. And that allows them to keep their arms straighter. And then they're thinking dang, I got a tricep? That looks sick. And now there's that narcissism that maybe creeps in where it's there's look good, feel good, play good, as Deion Sanders would say. And then all of a sudden, there's a vibe. There's an energy. Yeah. And then there's a fun. And you and I both know play is the highest form of learning. So now you're playing, you're not training anymore. And it sounds to me that because you have this abstract perception, it alludes to hope that hey, you're you right now, but you can get better. And if you hold space for that level of childlike optimism, the best is yet to come. And that's what I'm feeling remotely having this conversation with you. I can only imagine if, we were in the same room, what that would feel like.
Sparks would be flying, Bryce. I really like how you rephrased that. And it even reminded me a little bit, again, just I guess staying on the spark of weightlifting and then connecting all these dots. When I was too serious and rigid and self-critical during my weightlifting career was always when I had the most stalled progress. And when I allowed myself a lot more freedom to explore, have fun, change things up, listen to a different perspective, I made progress. And one of my most tragic moments for me was in 2013. I was in really, really good shape, and I was always in my weight class, always going to be second to Chad Vaughn. Chad Vaughn is, the original GOAT of the 77 kilo weight class, and I'm so lucky, my coach was always his competition coach. So they had done some international trips together and they bonded really well. So I got to experience Chad as an athlete and a competitor when I was 14. And then I got to compete against him in multiple nationals. And long story going too long on that, but in 2013, he was starting his, let's call it decline a little bit, because he was now towards the end of his career. And I was right around my absolute peak. Was it 2013? Yeah. I was just thinking for a second. And I ended up, I tweaked my shoulder. Funny thing is, I tweaked my shoulder showing somebody how to do an ab wheel rollout at the gym. And then it spiraled. It just was a weird tweak. And then in training, it got worse and worse. And I didn't get to compete at nationals that year. And my training numbers would have given me my first and only national championship. Wow. And I had to sit and watch that. And it was the year after I had made made the U.S. national team and had gone to the Pan American Championships and helped the Team USA qualify their spot to send Kendrick Ferris to the Olympics. And like after that, I was on fire. Like I was so motivated. I'm gonna be on the next world team. I'm gonna get my national championship. It's the next quad. I'm gonna go to the 2016 Olympics. Then I tweaked my shoulder, showing an ab wheel rollout. Like how embarrassing is that?
Mm-hmm. It's always the little things like that, man. Like one of my really good friends, like deadlifted over 600 pounds. Everything was fine. And then like the next morning he sneezed in bed and like herniated his disc. And I'm like, seriously? Like that's so annoying. Obviously it's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Of course.
But like it's still such a bummer. But also I do want to note for our community, that was also like a peak time when like the Outlaw Way and Rudy were programming a ton of stuff. You saw like weightlifting really starting to gain some popularity from the CrossFit Games. You saw like the Valley girls, Lindsay Valenzuela, Chris Clever.
Yeah.
Like that's where I started my journey, was at Valley CrossFit with them. And so to like observe them, like Katie Hogan, and then you started to see like Jesse Burdick and Mark Bell kind of pulling in powerlifting. And then RIP Rob Orlando, man, he just passed away the other day, unfortunately, to cancer.
Yeah.
Like he was such a pivotal dude at that time too, with strongman and Atlas stones and heavy yoke carries. And so like that time was just like a really fun time in fitness where you're just getting this. Yeah, like exploded, and weightlifting was cool again. There was skill transfer drills, so it wasn't just for like, to become better at weightlifting. Maybe it's like, hey, you do this and you can jump higher and sprint faster, and it wasn't a one size fits all. And like you said, it was play, man. Everybody came into the gym, wrote some stuff up on a whiteboard, and you digested it, and then you got after it. There wasn't like 100 different programs to hop from, and this person's better or that person's better. It was like Jason Kalipa, freaking Dan Bailey, and Rich Froning, and like YouTube was just starting. There weren't cameras and selfies and everybody videoing their workout. It was just this like really special romanticized time of like, we're figuring this out and we're carving a path that we don't know where it's going to go, but it's really fun to do with our friends along the way.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, one of my like, when I teach a weekend course, I always start with asking everybody, why are you here? So every single person, and I say, try not to be too long-winded. Like if we have a group of 20 people and everybody takes 10 minutes, it's going to be a little too long. But like, I'll say, just give me, one reason why you're here. Like, do you want to learn something? Did your friend tell you? Like, I would really like to know your intention of why you're here. But then I always tell them, I'm here because CrossFit gave me a home to teach people, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I always say that because, early on, especially weightlifters, really had their nose up to like the CrossFit community. Like, oh, you're bastardizing our sport and this and this and this. And man, I got invited into a CrossFit gym in 2009 to help some people prep for a competition because they couldn't snatch. And the first thing I thought was, this is so cool. Like, people actually want to learn how to lift. And then like every year it was more and more, and people got more, engaged in it. And I always tried to keep that perspective of, like an immense gratitude, because weightlifting was such an underground sport once the drug era ended in the 80s. So like starting in the like, at least for the US, like starting in the 90s and moving forward, like most people had no idea what I even did for a sport. So like once that opened up, I always try to say like why I'm so thankful to be there. And this ties into what we're talking about with play and play being the best way to learn and grow is, I also write rules on the board. And the one rule that I have, it's a combo one: have fun and be fun. If you're not having fun here, you shouldn't be here, because we're all so privileged to come into a gym and play. So like I'm so privileged that you guys even pay to be here, and it gives me a career that I never thought that I would have. But at the same time, if you were able to come up with the money to come to this event, or somebody helped you with it, it's still like it's a layer of privilege, and we have to like honor that with a joy and a gratitude and a fun. And if you're having fun and you're being fun, that spreads. So like I always, that's like it's number 5 on my list.
I
But
love
like
the
it's the
be
strongest
fun
one.
as well. Like I think that's a really important rule, because I really do think that it's easy to wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It's easy to pay attention to all of the things that are wrong in the world. But if you choose, hey, I get to go to the gym. I don't have to. I get to go learn and be around other like-minded individuals that are seeking edges. I think one of the most important skills is to find ways to be in a good mood despite not having reasons to be in a good mood.
Yeah,
And I
for
think if
sure.
you're thinking that way, you're already in a mental framework of inching in the right direction. Like
Yeah,
to also echo that, like if your mental framework is like, I want to snatch 100 kilos as fast as possible and be able to do it over and over and over again, it's like your mental framework is already screwed up. Like it
yeah,
should
yeah, yeah.
be, sure, that can be a big, hairy, audacious goal that's on one side of the spectrum. But it's like, hey, if you're in pursuit of optimizing technique and having fun and doing it well over years and years and years, and understanding leg drive, hip extension, angles, what's going on of the knees, the hips, the shoulders, the shrug, the finish, keeping the bar close. As a byproduct, now it's this artistic poetry in motion
Yeah.
that unlocks so many doors, rather than just the outcome and the ego boost of, hey, I hit 100 kilos and I did it 30 reps, on Tuesday or whatever.
No, that's beautiful because yeah, you said it's a byproduct. Like, so one thing I generally try to say it in a humorous way, but I mean it in a really positive way. I have high hopes and low expectations. And it's not a negative. It's for myself. It's for others because it doesn't mean that I don't have standards and I don't have goals and I don't have goals for others and I don't have boundaries and things like this. But like I'm incredibly hopeful. But an expectation would be I need to snatch 100 kilos next week. Well, if you don't, then what? Well, now I'm disappointed. Well, maybe that expectation was unrealistic. And there's so many things that go into play with an expectation that more often than not, you're going to be disappointed and then frustrated and then you're taking the joy out of it. So it's like, every opportunity to just celebrate what movement can even be. You can take that. And I think you definitely can relate to that from, playing collegiate basketball and competing at a high level in CrossFit. Like the personality types that are doing these things and that are going into CrossFit gyms and things, they're already like quite stressed, maybe a little bit anxious, already have really high standards and expectations of themselves. So then like we as coaches and educators, if we just add on to that, like we're just feeding into sometimes what's already holding them back. From like finding a balance, a peace, a contentment. So I try to balance that out a little bit. It's even maybe I'm curious with the coach from Arizona. Like he obviously knew his players. Like he didn't need to be aggressive to them. They probably already have aggressive expectations of themselves. Like he needed to let them sit with what they were doing. And maybe he even, maybe he has a small side conversation with one of them as they're walking out of the tunnel. Like, hey, so-and-so is going to be pretty tight. So like crack a joke, like, lighten everybody up, like things like that. I think that's another learned trait or characteristic. If you're in a position to teach, educate, lead, things like that is, life is serious and tough enough. We don't have to over serious it when we're playing in the gym.
Yeah. You described that with lenses, Mike, of supreme observation and pattern recognition, which I greatly appreciate. And the way I'll make it digestible for people is when people are coming in, they're not all coming in as the same ingredient profile. Like you said, like some people are coming in lack of sleep, injured, stressed. Sometimes that's work stress, financial stress, emotional stress. Maybe they've got a family member that's sick. As coaches, our role is to create a container, a space for people to play. And within that play, if you maintain the expectations of high hopes, low expectations, it's like a low-hanging fruit where it's like, okay, you grab that. Now you can have the confidence to go to the next higher one, the next higher one. But if you basically are like, hey, I'm unimpressed if you grab all these fruit, I'm only impressed if you get the one at the top. Well, now you've got people climbing on ladders and climbing the tree only in the pursuit of love and validation for that one fruit at the top. And then as a byproduct, they're breaking their leg. They're not having fun. They're getting discouraged. And I could go on and on. And what I want to touch on here is, and maybe this is my own pessimistic view, but I feel like competitive CrossFit has become that, where it's always about the time, where you placed on the leaderboard, the outcome, and like who lifted the most, and then it's romanticized on social media. And I want to push back on that a little bit, because it's not necessarily that measurable outcome. It's more so, did you do your best to become the best that you're capable of becoming? And did you enjoy yourself along the way? Because that makes for a better story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The kicker there is, did you enjoy it on the way? Because if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? Like, there's other things that you can do that are way more important than your fitness journey that you can do that are unenjoyable. Mm-hmm. Like go jump in a ditch and dig a ditch with somebody to, like suffer a little bit if that's what you want to do. But I think to maybe, I don't think you're being pessimistic at all. I think a spin that I try to personally put on that is to just say it's the responsibility of the leaders in the industry or the voices to just say that, like, competitive CrossFit is just that, competitive. And competitiveness at a high level has a really small shelf life. But the aura of CrossFit and the community and the lifestyle is supposed to be just that, community and a lifestyle. So it can't be competition. Like, I'm not training to run away from the zombie apocalypse. Like, I'm training to lower my stress levels, to have fun, to be able to play with people at an old age, now. And I think what I've noticed is that sometimes people come to like a Power Monkey camp, a Power Monkey weekend, assuming that they're going to get this crazy intensive, like, I'm going to learn how to crush everything. And then what they find out is, oh man, what I needed was to laugh a little bit, to realize that I'm not making a living from this. I'm doing this because it should add value to everything else that I'm doing. And I generally ask that too, like in a weekend course. I'll say, yeah, raise your hand if the amount of weight that you snatch tomorrow determines if you can put food on your table. And almost nobody raises their hand. I'm like, then don't take anything too seriously right now. Like, I am seriously going to teach you to be the best mover that I think you can be. But we need to tone it down a little bit. Because it doesn't matter if, next week you go to the, big bash barbell throwdown and, the one person does a little bit extra on a made up complex. I'm like, I'll tell you a secret. Like, gymnastics and weightlifting are made up sports that came from the circus. Like, we're all just meant to play and make people laugh and be, entertained. And like, let's treat it a little more like that sometimes.
It's a great observation. Fun fact. One of the first coaches that I had in weightlifting, I forgot his last name. His name was Will something. It was in Chicago. And he could overhead squat like almost 400 pounds, which at that time I was like jaw dropped coming from basketball.
Yeah,
it was just like unreal.
Nice deadlift.
Yeah, exactly. And he worked for the circus. He was like the bottom guy that helped actively hold people from the bottom. And I was so amazed by it. I just thought the cross transfer there and just like the scapular strength and ability and being able to carry and move in the midline strength that comes with holding somebody overhead, not to mention the responsibility to keep them safe and stable. I was just like, whoa, like that's something else. And then you see him in the gym overhead squatting 400 pounds. I'm like, man, this is
now I get it.
Yeah. I was like, holy moly, man. So like being able to see that early on, as you can hear, like I'm almost lost for words with it because I was coming from basketball. Like, oh yeah, I throw a barbell around to jump higher and, understand how to absorb a force and, understand how to be athletic and jumping for a rebound or shooting a jump shot and having grip strength, whatever. And to see that was just like, oh, there's levels to this game. There's definitely levels that I did not know existed.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that was, it's not completely connected, but like I said, my coach would oftentimes give me a lot of humbling moments. And he would always say, like, there's somebody out there smaller than you that can lift more than you. And eventually it'll probably be a girl. So like, don't get too cocky. And you could take that as like demoralizing, but I would laugh a little bit and I'd be like, wow, you're right. Like how impressive. Like there's, you're always going to be able to find somebody that can just do something really, really crazy. And there's usually to your note, there's usually a story behind it. And it usually has a lot more color and nuance than what we put to just the one thing that we see, a big lift, a time on a scoreboard, whatever that may be. There's always so much more. And that's the fun stuff. Like that's the flavor.
Yeah, for sure. There's been 3 references that I've heard you kind of mention. One being just the subtle, sweet, loving energy of your mom. You've referenced your coach a couple times. And then you've also talked about your great aunt. Who helped you see something in yourself before you were able to see it?
Let's go 2 parts. My mom's biased because I'm her young son, so she's always going to think I'm wonderful. But she definitely gave me, that affirmation to be a confident, kind person, I think. Definitely my great aunt, mainly because from Pee Wee baseball to then basketball, football, everything, like she watched and she would, say like what she saw that was good. So I think that gave me like a being seen confidence by somebody that's obviously older. And as funny as it was, like I saw the like saved newspaper clippings of her on the 1936 Fowler High School all-state track and field. And I thought that was cool as a little kid. I'm like, cool. Oh, that's awesome. Like when you grow up in a small town and you hear all-state, that's like, wow, from this little town, the whole state of Ohio. And then, to like one up her, so that's all-state. I remember being freshman, sophomore in high school, and I was just starting to get pretty good at weightlifting, and I was already quite good at football. And Lou, my coach, I was in the gym and he would always point at the Team USA jacket. And this is one reason, and some of my family got angry. I never got a Letterman's jacket in high school because Lou, every day that I was in the gym, he would point at the Team USA jacket and he'd say, what's more impressive, Matthews High School Letterman jacket or Team USA jacket? So he just more like the fact that he dangled that to me. And I saw him talk to other people in the gym, and he never said that to anybody else, at least from my memory and my observation. And I only knew one other guy that really trained from like childhood to the end of his career for Lou. And he made the 1980 boycotted men's Olympic team, and his jacket was up. And yeah, that was like in the back of my head, that was like, almost like a carrot, just like, oh man, let's see. And then it turned into like, man, I really want that. And I didn't get the Olympic team jacket, but I got the Team USA jacket. And that was still one of the coolest things. When I got that jacket, I was like, oh man, that's going to Lou, and he's putting it in a plaque and he's putting it up in his gym. Because there's no way he's going to say that I didn't get that, because I didn't get a Letterman. I didn't get a Letterman's jacket. And it was like one of those, like, all right, I'm not going to get one. Like I'm going to hold out for the, the bigger one.
Yeah.
So that's still, yeah. For me, that's a really, I don't think about that memory so often, but, yeah, I'll get to see him. I don't see him so often anymore because I live international. But I make it a point every time it's possible. Even if I have a workshop in Texas, I'll fly back through Pittsburgh and then drive to, Youngstown, Ohio, and I'll meet Lou for breakfast so that we can catch up. He's like 88 years old now. He's still
Nice.
power snatches, power cleans, and front squats 3 days a week and rides the exercise bike. He had a heart attack in the gym one time. Finished his workout.
Oh,
So when he wasn't having a heart attack, then I went home. His wife called me and was like, can you please come get me and take me to the hospital? He rehabbed himself, and, and that was
wow.
30 years ago. Yeah.
That's so impressive. And I also think it's good to note, in aging gracefully, you can't just continue to fit a square peg in a round hole. You were specific in your verbiage there and said power snatch, power clean, still like doing certain things, but not trying to pull himself underneath and compromise his joints and do certain things, but then integrates optimization in the squat pattern with the front squat.
Yep.
And so I think you're spot on in like those being great things that you can do across a lifespan as long as you maintain them appropriately and your joints allow.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of something that I usually offer as feedback to a lot of people is don't test what you're not training. So competition is testing. Lifting heavy is testing. What are you doing in training? Like if you want to test something, you better be training it multiple times per week for multiple months. And that's low on the totem pole. Like, most, especially in weightlifting or think track and field, sprinting, like you progressively ramp up with what your body's capable of doing. And then we work in a population of adults that come in with strength, but not usable strength. And then joints, tendons, and ligaments that have not been developed in these like weird, crazy movements like snatch and clean and jerk. So I always say it's like maybe it takes away my job security, but I don't think everybody needs to or should even want to snatch. But I would love to teach everybody how to do a great back squat, front squat, overhead squat, and press. And then if you can do those, I guarantee you when you want to and you're ready to put the time into it, you'll be able to snatch and clean and jerk very, very well.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. And more importantly, it's honest. It's not trying to sell something that isn't appropriate for every single consumer. I want to unpack something else with you, Mike. You've often used the word kind. You're very kind in the way you communicate, in the way that you coach, in the way that you take other people's consideration into your account. But I want to create some discrepancy the same way you just did between training and testing not being the same. How would you differentiate between being kind and being a nice guy? Because a nice guy typically has an agenda, doesn't have boundaries, and just, there is a difference there. And I'm curious how you create that variation.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think I would compare it similar. I never really dug into that, like a nice guy. Like, I think words are loaded. So for me, it's easy to be nice when it's easy. And that can very quickly go away. And then, you're not nice. And kindness, I don't know. It's deeper. It's a deeper thing. I love that you would appreciate this more because you're, bilingual and have an appreciation for languages. I love languages. I'm just not very good at them. So I do take a lot of time to investigate words and meanings of words and what are bigger, deeper, stronger words in other languages, because English is just so simple and so basic. And oftentimes we need so much built-in context to try to explain the word that we're saying, instead of, what so many other languages are able to offer in these like really deep, beautiful words. But to me, kindness has an active eagerness to make a difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. Specifically Spanish for me, obviously I'm biased, but like there's like a passionate love to it. Like you feel it a little bit more. Like when somebody says amor, you're like, ooh. That's way different than just love.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think similarly, to echo the word kindness, I think there's a consideration as to how it'll land versus nice, I think is like a little bit selfish. I'm just being nice because that is, I don't know. It just feels surface level. I think you described it really well. The
Yeah.
kindness is a little deeper.
It feels like it to me, and of course that's where you always, yeah, like you said, we were talking about earlier, like know your audience, know who you're talking with. Like maybe somebody else it's different, so it's fun to talk about words, I guess, is where I get into something. But yeah, kindness to me has a much deeper piece to it, and it's definitely a much more active word, and something that, yeah, I'm very happy. It's affirming when somebody feels the kindness that I have, because I do think it comes naturally. I think I inherit. I think, again, I said my mother, like, she's one of the nicest, kindest people that I know to anybody and everybody, and I've always tried to mirror that from her, and then in that, like, level it up. Like, how can I put myself in different cultures, different situations, different people, where it's not being uncomfortable. Sometimes the natural reaction is not to be kind. It's to be like neutral, because you're a little bit afraid or a little bit tentative or insecure. But you probably get this too from, speaking publicly and traveling and meeting people. The more you're in front of people, if you allow yourself to be quite vulnerable, yeah, I don't know. For me, the kindness factor is, it's what I want. So it's like, you put out what you want to be. And it's something that I appreciate in others, and I try to surround myself and gravitate myself or find the kindness in other people, because it amplifies.
Yeah. At what point did you realize that effort and intention are not the same thing?
Yeah, I guess weightlifting is a great way to find that out. Like, my, let's say my intention was always to, all right, maybe this will go deeper, but we can keep it where it needs to be. My intention was always to total 300 or more as a weightlifter. Like in my body weight class, that was like a benchmark for a 77 kilo lifter. If you could total 300, you were in like a select few. Now it's more and more, and it's so impressive. But the effort to get there had different ways to learn. So it wasn't just try harder. So I think your intention, for me, your intention can dictate the type of effort that you have to put in. And sometimes, depending on your tendencies, more effort might look like less for you, and that's really, really difficult. Depending on who you are and what your intentions and your goals are, more effort might be more effort, like try harder. So that's, I think, intention, it could be more like a standard, and then effort is like a sliding scale of trying to figure out how, what, when, where to apply the effort.
Yeah, that's why I really love the newest thing that you're seeing in program design, RPE, rate of perceived exertion.
Oh, yes.
It's really cool, right? And like when you take into consideration, a lot of these data trackers, whether it's the Whoop or it's the Kalo, and you're looking at the different HRV factors, how much you slept, like what's going on with your stress levels, where's your oxygen at, then you can decide that RPE where it matches your physiology a little bit better, and it creates a little bit more of like puzzle piecing together your week, rather than just like every Monday we're coming off a rest day, we're going to work hard, we're going to squat the world. And it's like, that's not always the best fit. And as a coach, how have you, because I'm sure you coach people remotely too, you're writing program design, and it on one side of the coin, you're putting things into a spreadsheet or into an app to make it digestible for your client or the consumer. But in some ways, like, you're predicting them to be like a lab rat. Like, you're trying to create a plan, but you really don't know how they're going to feel when they get into the gym. How do you play that game when you're meeting people where they're at, but you're also holding a standard?
Yeah. Well, I just had a really fun, deep conversation about this with a participant at one of our events. She's very, very, very analytical and very numbers driven and works in data. And she's like, how do you assess your clients? Like, how do you assess them? And that was her question. I was like, wow. And then we actually had a big conversation and I ended up answering it unintentionally. She goes, no, you answered it. That was good. Like she dug around. It was really cool. But basically I told her, I work a lot on trying to get the people that work with me to understand comfort levels. Work up to a comfortable single. What's a comfortable single? Could you do that every minute or two for the next 6 to 10 sets? No, then it's not that comfortable. It was too difficult. So like, and it kind of changes with different clients because it's another layer of RPE for me. So I don't use percentages almost at all with anybody unless it's something that's, on Monday, we're going to build to a heavy set of 3 in the squat. Then the note will be heavy set of 3 means I want you to feel like you definitely could have done one more rep with the same quality. So be honest with yourself and stop 1 rep short. Now, the end of the week, I'm going to have you do 90% of that, but I want you to do the same thing and see how many reps you can get with that same standard. So I want you to stop 1 rep before it would get ugly. And then we're just going to base a lot of things off of that. And it's always a little bit different for everybody. And it's a learning and growing thing. I have certain clients that hate when I put, let's say, for example, power snatch plus overhead squat. I want you to do 6 to 8 sets today by feel. No, what's by feel? I go, by feel. I want you have full freedom. If you PR, great job. If you stay at 50% of your max, just tell me why you stayed there. I'm curious. And then everything usually kind of grows and develops like that with different people. And I think when you work with enough people over time, you develop a lot of avatars for certain types of people with certain training ages and backgrounds will respond to different types of intensities. And as long as you're keeping a really good dialogue, I ask a lot of questions. So a lot of my feedback is not statement driven, but question driven. And then depending on the answer will project the next steps for a program or a plan.
I like that. I want to point something out. You did it unconsciously, and I think I do it often as well. You said 6 to 8 sets by feel. If you PR that day, you said great job. And then if they stay at 50%, you wanted to know the why. I would also say great job. You see what I'm saying? What's so interesting to me in the coaching space, and it's unconscious. We don't even realize we do it. And now being a little bit removed, I very much celebrate when it's like, you listened to that little whisper in your body before it became a shout. Yeah. That should be celebrated just as much as the PR, because now you're going to go home, your shoulder's going to feel good, you're going to be able to wash your back in the shower, you're going to be able to play with your kids, versus, oh, well, that person over there lifted really heavy, so I wanted to challenge myself too, and I don't have personal control, so I decided to take it too far. Now my shoulder hurts, Coach Mike. Can you give me a bunch of crossover symmetry and things that I can do because I didn't exercise control? I think it's like the next evolution that I think we're seeing in the fitness world is, hey, let's romanticize and highlight and celebrate, and as you like to say, honor the back off days too, because they're so important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, progress is made in consistency, and consistency cannot be had with too much intensity. Mm-hmm. And that's always been a misperception of CrossFit methodology, is everybody focused on the constantly varied and intensity, but those are components. Constant variation can be do it a little bit lighter. Pause in this position. You don't have to completely change everything every day. And then intensity, high intensity. But what is high intensity? And then everybody leaves off the, virtuosity and agility and skill development. And I would throw in my rules would be patience. I think awareness is up there, right? On one of the one who
Awareness
kills.
and accuracy.
Yeah, accuracy. Yeah, and then I would put in joy, like enjoyment. Like if it, like okay, and there's a lot of layers to it. So I like you just said, the celebrating somebody, moderating is phenomenal, because like moderation is key to most things. So if you're able to, push when you should push and pull back when you should pull back, that shows a great amount of self-restraint and maturity for an athlete, no matter the age, like emotional maturity. But that's also that's on a coach to work with that. I think that's sometimes almost more important than the actual program that's being written.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. And I think there's a subtle shift of psychology that comes with that, because then it doesn't become RX culture of like, oh, I have to do it as written on the board, otherwise I'm less than.
Yes.
Right. And so
Yeah.
the idea of customization or I don't even think the word scale is good anymore, because I think the way it's digested is that, oh, I'm not able to fit with the tribe now. Now I got to go in the corner and do, my own thing, which now you feel isolated. And they've done a lot of like mental research on that. And like, dude, it doesn't feel good when you're judged. And like, then when you put your score up on the board, there's like a parentheses of like modified.
Scale. I hate that word.
So I don't know. I think there's something to be said there around, you listen to your body. You made the right decisions in the right moment. And I think even aiming low is sometimes almost better, because now you create an awareness of like, oh, I probably could have gone a little faster, a little bit heavier. That's a much better feeling than, oh my gosh, I went too heavy and I spent half the workout staring at the bar or the kettlebell. I think the more simplicity, the more beauty in some cases. Like, simple doesn't mean easy, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. And just like what you said with me for scaling and RX and all of this, like, it doesn't matter if it's CrossFit, strength and conditioning, whatever. Like, you have movement patterns and you have intentions. What do you want out of the movement pattern? And then the magic is fitting that in to be appropriate, whether you're doing it to yourself or coach to the masses. So always trying to find movement pattern, intention, and then where are you on like the list of progressions that you can be on to get what you want to get to. The RX stuff is so silly, because who says that RX Grace is 135, and who cares? Like, to be honest, it's fine if you're training to do a competition with Grace, but like, what's the intention of actually the workout of Grace? It's like, what's the time domain that you want to hit in that workout? Cool. Then what movement can I give somebody that mimics a clean and jerk, makes them hit around that time domain and feel what most everybody will feel doing that? Like, let's try and play that game.
I had this
it can overcomplicate things, but
for sure. I had this conversation with a naturopathic doctor that's a good friend of mine. And, everybody's talking about peptides and stuff now, but we were talking about this concept of, hold the standard versus customization versus scaling, and just like what it all means. And I kind of made a joke around, okay, some of the highest performers, best athletes in the world, I want to see their blood panel. Oh, they're not optimized here. They're scaling sleep. They're scaling and have all these nutrition deficiencies. And so I almost like poked fun, like, okay, if you're training for life and you're training to be the best athlete you possibly can, maybe we should stop stepping over hundreds to pick up pennies and putting so much emphasis on the training all the time that we're leaving room on the table, right? If we optimize some of these things, like getting our ass to sleep and not scrolling, magnesium before bed, winding down, blue light blockers, or just different things that allow you to get your nervous system into that place of rest and digest. And I bring that up because, you look at the performative culture right now, Mike, and, everybody looks at, the outcome. And I'll use somebody that I think, Mike Idala as an example. He's, the Turkish get up world
Crazy
record.
athlete.
It's incredible, right? Like you see what he's doing, but everybody romanticizes that. Nobody talks about the years of handstand work, dialing in his sleep, Turkish get-ups with kettlebells, with kids, with people, with, all kinds of scap retraction work on the rings. It's the work that people don't see that ends up allowing him to then do the Turkish get-up world record. And I think it's really important that at least what I want to do a little bit with our storytelling is to share the whole story, not just the final bit. What comes to mind there for you being such a process-oriented guy of like, the goal was 300 kilos, but there were days where you needed to do a lot of snatch pulls, a lot of isometric holds in RDL positions, a lot of shoulder pressing. Your hands were probably beat up. And so just kind of managing the peaks and valleys of the experience in pursuit of 300.
Oh, yeah, there's a couple layers. One, I would say on the hands, I had the most disgusting callus right here that was cracked and would bleed for like 7 years. It was so gnarly, and I could never get it to go away. And I've never been more proud than now, where I don't train enough to have like crazy calluses. I'm like, oh, it's so nice. Like I don't look like I have a hand disease that nobody wants to shake my hand. But yeah, the whole story, the picture, and people that have worked with Dave and myself and Power Monkey long enough, they know how much we care about the foundation. And for me, like, people will laugh, but I constantly say, like, just let me see you squat better. Like, just squat better. Because when it comes to the other movements, that's your baseline. And sometimes the story that I'll show for perspective is, I had a really, really big squat as a weightlifter. I had a big back squat, a big front squat. But for some reason, I didn't have a big clean. And that didn't make any sense, because a lot of guys that were cleaning more than me did not squat what I squatted. And there were a few moments in my career where I had some really, really powerful words of wisdom that I ignored. It always starts with the person closest to you. My coach, Lou, would always try to shame me because when he would clean and front squat, he always had a full grip on the bar. And I always had these fingertips. And he would make fun of me. He's like, "What? Hold the bar. What are you doing? You look like a sissy." I said, "Yeah, but it feels better." "Yeah, it looks like crap." He would use different terms. It feels better. I like it. Okay. And he'd let me do it. And then I remember being at a competition and training, and I was asking a lot of questions. I got to be pretty good friends with Norik Vardanyan, who I would hope some of your listeners know. He and his wife Jenny was Jenny Arthur. Now they're married, have a kid. They're both icons in Olympic weightlifting. And Norik's father, Yuri Vardanyan, was one of the most decorated Soviet lifters ever, just crazy athlete. And I would ask them, "Oh, yeah, this about training, what are you doing for this and this?" And his dad watched me front squat for one day, and at the time he didn't speak much English, so he just said to Norik, I said, "Yeah, what did your dad say?" He said, "You should probably hold onto the bar when you're squatting. You're losing a lot of power and stability in your lifts." And like, how can that matter? So to put context to that, my best front squat ever was 211 kilos, only because Chad Vaughn's best front squat was 210, and I wanted to out front squat him. Now, silly me, when I front squatted 211, my best clean was 160 kilos. So I had a 51 kilo gap. When Chad front squatted 190, his best clean, 210, his best clean was 202. He had an 8 kilo difference. So somewhere, like, we're both athletic humans, we're both strong. How was he so much more efficient? He was holding onto the barbell, and I noticed that. And then I listened. Okay, holding onto the barbell. Okay, oh man, now I've been training my whole career like this. This is so uncomfortable. So I tried. My front squat went from 211 to 190. So I dropped 21 kilos in my front squat because it was so uncomfortable. And I cleaned for the first time, plus front squats, 170. So I dropped 20 kilos on my front squat, and I gained 10 kilos on my clean in like a summer. It was just paying attention to that detail. So I always tell that story to everybody. I'm like, details are important, and I'm showing you something that I think is very important. And here's a practical reason from sport, but also, getting into the weeds, like when you do a pull-up, are you stronger when you hold the bar and you pull, or when you go to 2 or 3 fingers? Like, hold the bar. And in the front squat, the barbell's already in front of you, and it's so hard to hold that position. Fingertips is passive. So maybe your elbows are high, but you're not doing anything other than hoping you can keep your elbows high. So if you hold the barbell and your elbows drop slightly, you're still stronger. So it's like it's a whole process of what we do when we're learning and training. And I've had such cool realizations from people when they do it, even though they're, oh my God, it's so uncomfortable. But I tried it in training for a while, and stuff starts to feel better. And
interesting you describe this, because it is this discrepancy between ego and identity in some ways, in the sense of like, no, I'm the guy that squats heavy, but then it wasn't actually having the correlation to the goal. And so you almost had to like back off.
Effort and intention, as you said.
Yeah. and here's the other thing that's very important. The cue, elbows up, that might work for some people, but you also have to take into consideration the core to extremity principle. If your elbows are up, but then you're rounded like a cashew, it doesn't really matter as much. But if you're able to maintain a whole hand on the bar and you have thoracic extension and a little bit of depression, now all of a sudden you have the scapular strength and stability, the core strength. It's probably more over midfoot. You can get your hips back underneath the bar as you're standing up from that clean. It's pretty magical. I will say, though, it's not as easy, and you know this, to just say, oh, hold on to the bar. The mobility for that in the lat, in the wrist, in the elbow, is painful.
It is. But the caveat that I always give everybody is the only way I've ever seen anybody improve on it is just starting with the bar and front squats. And I don't care how tight you are, eventually that will work, because you're getting a combo of a push, and then you're actually pulling yourself into the squat at that point. So you get this incredible mobility work that doesn't happen in all these other crazy drills that everybody tries to do.
I totally agree, man. I think you're spot on. And my final year of highly competitive CrossFit, the tempo front squat, dude, I did just about every day. Just because it was such a great mobility drill. And it was so easy for a 6'4" guy to be forward in everything, that it was just like using that weight to get motor learning, really, rather than just like passive mobility. I was
that's all the front squat is. Yeah, that's all the front squat is. I try to also relay to everybody, like, if you want to get strong, back squat. But if you want to improve your clean, front squat the right way. It doesn't, like, it's the only reason as a let's say as an athlete that you would be front squatting most of the time is because you want to do cleans. Like, there's so many other ways to get your legs and your core and things strong that could maybe, let's say, be easier to teach or something. Of course, if I can choose my best bang for the buck, I want people to do front squats. But like, for everybody, especially in the CrossFit setting, you are only front squatting because you want to do cleans and thrusters. It's the only reason you're front squatting. Well, what are the main things that people mess up? They dump their cleans forward because they're not holding onto the bar. And they have to try to re-grip on a thruster. And that's like the most demoralizing thing in the world. So I was actually really happy when I started teaching CrossFit, because it gave me an extra validation for why you should front squat with a full grip. And then if you do, a survey of the best weightlifters in the world, just looking for smoothness and fluidity, the lifters that maintain a grip on the barbell as it turns over, it looks better. And it doesn't mean that there's not a world champion that lets go of the bar, but when you let go of the bar, you're not transferring power or control or stability. You're throwing it and you're catching it. And it's actually not a throw and a catch. It's a pull under.
I like the way you described that. What's your favorite lift to coach?
Actually, the clean, because it was my ugliest lift and it's so simple. So I love to simplify it for people, because I was unable to do it because I got obnoxiously strong in some of the wrong areas as an athlete. So I was always working way harder than I needed to clean much less than I should have. Like my snatch was technically quite good, but my clean was technically all over the place. So I love
This is
teaching
probably
it.
a messy. I have a messy hot
No.
take, and I wouldn't say this would
Ooh.
correlate to Olympic weightlifting specifically, but I do think in some ways you see people get away with it in CrossFit, and that is F technique just gets so strong where the technique doesn't matter as much. I'm sure you've heard it time and time again, and it works till it doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. There's some truth to it, but the funny thing is in CrossFit, you're not really rewarded for spending too much time getting too strong. You should be more efficient than a weightlifter. You have to do so many things. Like, why do I want to spend so much time getting so strong when I just end up, the stronger I get, I'm probably getting heavier. Now it's harder for me to run and breathe. A lot of times the heavier I get, the harder my mobility is. Like now it's harder for me to recover. I'm getting more injuries. Like competitive CrossFit in a way is such a cool experiment because even now, a lot of the like prototypical body types, I think for the best CrossFitters are not the best body type. It's just a result of how they have to train to handle the stress and load that they're handling. But it's, to be 5'9", 5'10", and then weigh 220. And then you have to, run a sub 5-minute mile and you have to snatch 300 pounds. Like that's a lot on the body. Like it's impressive. It turns into, you're now a professional athlete at that point, and that's a limited shelf life. Like you're going to get strong as F, and you're going to wreck some shit up. And then you're going to pay for it the rest of your life.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's true. I turned 36 a couple weeks ago, and I was just self-reflecting because right around 26, I was going to the games with Team Invictus for the second time. And, dude, I remember, like, in a car ride or a plane, like, that patellofemoral pain just from so much squatting, so many wall balls. Like, it just sucks when you're sitting forever. And then I'd, like, go to drink a cup of coffee and, like, the elbow tendonitis from, like, so many thrusters and snatches and pull-ups. And I was like, oh, like, I mean, I still do a lot of those things, but at significantly different intensity, different volume, different load for sure. But I was like, I think it's beautiful to have the opportunity to get older and not feel older. And I think it's an important thing to note, just because we're both of us, where we're at in our post-fitness journey or post-competitive fitness journey. How's that felt for you? You alluded to the callus on the hand and how training is a lot more playful for you now, but you're still moving heavy weight. You're still jacked. You're still doing things. And the reason why this came up is because I think sometimes from the consumer or the fan side of things, they look at like CrossFit Games athletes and they're like, oh, why don't they have all the abs? But then that person has all the abs. And they don't really conceptualize, like, not every NBA player is like overly jacked. You look at Jokic, and he doesn't look like that, but he's one of the best players and contender for MVP every year. All right, right? And you look at Luka. I don't know. It's just an interesting ideology. Like, what's it been like for you to get older, but also not be overly concerned with body composition all the time?
It's so actually, this was a conversation I was just having with a friend today a little bit. I think that's never easy. Even let's say as a man, like, I do want to look nice. Like I have an aesthetic that I like and I want. But I try to remind myself that, again, the aesthetic, no matter what it is, should be a byproduct of what I'm doing. And whatever it is, if what I'm doing is fun and I like it, then the aesthetic, I hope I'm always going to be okay with. So, funny enough, I don't look so much different than when I was training full time in my 20s. And I'm 39 now. I'll be 40. I'm 2 kilos lighter than I was when I was competing. So I generally weighed 76 to 77 kilos, like 165 pounds. Now I go 162 to 165. I do a lot of handstands now and probably more pull-ups, like mostly strict pull-ups. so I have a little more upper body mass and a little bit less lower body mass. But I think it's funny what your body will allow itself to be when there's balance. So even like what you talked about, like sleep, recovery, I'm so lucky. Not everybody that I'm friends with or acquainted with is a good sleeper. I sleep phenomenal. I'm, fortunate is one way to say it, or, maybe not, because like I love all my friends that have children. I don't have children, so I don't have the stress of like, oh man, now I have to get up and take care of the kids and do this. So like I have that luxury, let's say, where it's a removed stressor. But my approach to training is I have movement patterns that I like to do. I want to feel good. I still want to have like a decent number on my squat just because it's fun for me. I want to see like, basically every year I do like a little check-in. If I've been squatting regularly, I'll allow myself at the end of the year to build to a heavy single. But it has to be comfortable and feel good. And this past year, it was actually cool. I did 3 times in December. I ended up squatting 200 kilos. And I hadn't squatted 200 kilos. And I started to think about it. I was like, oh, probably like 5 or 6 years. Because it just wasn't there.
Congrats,
like it
man.
wasn't necessary. It was cool. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I'm happy for that. And then I was in Cape Town now, for a month, hosting and teaching and coaching. And I think in the month, I like legitimately trained or like scheduled my play 3 times in the month. I did a lot of handstands. I was walking everywhere and, taking care of people and stretching and doing things like that. And when I came home, I was like, oh, I wonder what like a heavy squat feels like today. But again, heavy without compromise. So good. And I worked up to, I did 180, so almost 400 pounds. So 10% decrease from like my end of year testing. After a month of almost doing nothing, and it felt good and nothing hurt the next day. Like I did it in my bare feet and I don't wear a belt or knee sleeves. So my goal is generally continue to strengthen all of my end ranges and be able to stay playful. And when I work with different people at courses and workshops and individually, I want to help them reach whatever goals they have, but I don't want to sacrifice that component. So I'm not going to program them to the intensity that would hurt them in the end game. And if somebody if that's not resonating with them, that's also completely fine. Like there's a lot of different strategies and coaches and schools of thought. So I try to be quite upfront with that to people in the beginning. Like my goal is not to get you as strong as possible, as fast as possible, ever. It's first to make sure that you're moving really, really well so that you can continue to move for as long as you want to and maximize on your potential, given the amount of time you will invest into that.
Mm-hmm. I love your philosophies, man. I think they're really special. I think people will have quite a few nuggets that they can take from our conversation today. One little bit of curiosity that I have is I do love the idea of moving well. But then you also think to yourself, well, something is better than nothing in some cases. Obviously, it depends. And so I think modern day, getting people to move is better than them not moving. And so in my brain, like sometimes I pick and choose my battles, right? Like, oh, can they get away with a little bit of poor movement so I'm not being a helicopter coach and trying to overly correct every little thing where it's not joyful anymore.
Yeah.
But hey, in their squat pattern, if they're getting a butt wink or some sort of valgus of the knee, I'm going to make that correction because that has more risk than reward. How do you kind of pick and choose when and how to correct so that way you're not just being annoying?
Yeah, so for me, I always start with movement is exploration. Yes. So as long as nobody's going to get hurt, I let them explore. So even for that example, if you're, doing a squat and your knee caves a little or your butt winks a little, if the intensity is low enough, it just doesn't matter because you know what? When you trip on the rock on the street, your knee's going to buckle a little bit and, you're going to sneeze and cough and herniate your disc. So in a certain way, I also want people to explore moving is just moving and then moving well is finding comfort. So my starting point is explore your ranges, try to find end ranges. And then once you find those end ranges, challenge them to get comfortable. Once you have, like, let's say big ranges of motion and you're comfortable, then you can get strong and stable. And all of it kind of works together. Like Dave will talk about the triumvirate of strength and stability. And now I'm blanking on his third point, but there's just so many things that go into movement. So yeah, moving well is not always a fair way to say it, but I want people to explore, and exploring for some might be walking around and sitting up and down from the couch. And then I would love if they could walk around and jump a tiny bit and land, and then maybe sit on the floor and stand up. And like all of those things, I think should just be explored and celebrated, which, like you said, which I loved, because then that allows for more exploration and more growth. And at the end, when my goal is maximize your potential. And that's a very, very open-ended place because everybody has a little different potential, most more than they realize. And some of those, it's a different direction than where they're headed.
Mm-hmm. This was fun today, man. Some of the cues that really stood out that you shared are have fun and be fun, have high hopes but low expectations. And I think those are just like 4 great nuggets that people can take with them in their exploration. Mike Cerbus, ladies and gentlemen. That was fun, dude.
Oh, man. Thank you, Bryce. Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you so much.
What you got cooking in the next couple weeks or in the next month or so? What's kind of the calendar looking like? What are you focused on?
The traveling circus that is Power Monkey Fitness it starts to get crazy. So yeah, I just came back from Cape Town, South Africa, 1 month, hosting 2 week-long fitness wellness exploration retreats. And now I came back home for Easter for a quick recharge, like 5 days. And then now I'm meeting Dave in Slovakia this weekend to teach a gymnastics weightlifting course. Then I will fly back to Ohio for 2 days. My nephew has a confirmation in his church. So I'm going to go to that. Then I'm going to immediately fly back to Dusseldorf and teach with our other gymnastics coach, Fabian Hanbüchen. Then I have a day home, and then I fly right back to the U.S. for Power Monkey Camp 26, our spring camp, which is the hallmark of my year. That's where all the magic happens. Everything that breathes out of anything Power Monkey is centered in camp. And I know Dave invited you.
Yeah.
Bryce, if you don't come to camp, it is going to be one of the biggest tragedies of your life. I promise you. Like, you need to come to camp if you want to be able to hear stories, tell stories. Like, bring all your stuff, set up your podcast at camp. You will have 150 people to choose from that will have stories that will break your heart, Wabi-Sabi your heart. You'll have like every athletic discipline, level, expression. We have an adaptive athlete coming to take part that's a double lower amputee. I'm excited because we had one before that came and PR'd their power clean, which was sick.
Wow, that is sick.
Like just the ability to be humbled every single moment is the most humbling experience, and it happens at Power Monkey Camp. And yeah, if you don't come, Bryce, I will come in July to San Diego. I will kidnap you. I will bring a wireless mic and I will sit you in the corner and I will just put people in front of you to talk to all day long. And your smile will just grow until you have cramps in the back of your cheeks.
I love this, man. I've heard nothing but great things. Literally not one person has ever spoken poorly of Power Monkey Camp. And it's been very transformational to see and hear, and even like couples have gone, and honestly, it wasn't always physical. It was like a psychedelic experience where it unlocked reservoirs of potential for their life on the other side, which is just so beautiful.
Yeah, I love. We always make a little joke. We're like, it's the best cult that exists. Like it's just a safe place for everybody, and like everybody's welcome. Like we promise you, like if you don't like it in the first day, like we'll hand you your money right back and you can go home, and nobody's ever done it. And I don't think anybody ever will, because if you get 1 day surrounded around so many different people that are so amazing, you can't can't pay for that. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's so special. Mike, where can people find you, man?
Oh, I mean, you can always find me at Power Monkey Fitness on Instagram, at Mike Cerbus on Instagram. We have a beautiful new website at Power Monkey. So if you go to powermonkeyfitness.com, Sadie, Dave's better half, just unveiled a nice upgrade on our website that's looking pretty fancy. And then, yeah, I mean, man, just look on our calendar, and I guarantee you, anywhere you are in the world, at some point, we'll be within an hour of you. So please come find me.
I love it, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll catch you soon, buddy.
Thank you so much, Bryce.
You guys enjoyed our conversation today. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Until next time.